The editor of the Marshall Islands Journal, Giff Johnson, is urging Pacific journalists not to be swayed by geopolitical narratives and to stay true to reporting stories that affect people in their daily lives. Starting today in Maturo, Mr. Johnson, who's also the co-founder of the Pacific Media Institute, is hosting Pacific journalists and media trainers for a workshop and summit on democracy. Increased competition between the United States and China in the Pacific has dominated headlines and political discourse over the past few years, but Mr. Johnson says while it's important to stay on top of such developments, they're far removed from the day-to-day realities of island living. Koroi Hawkins spoke with Giff Johnson about reporting in today's geopolitically charged Pacific region.
So, Pacific Media Institute in the Marshall Islands has planned a workshop series, a media workshop to happen in mid-June. It's 5 days, 4 days of intense workshop activities with a really interesting group of regional trainers, and then it segues into the fifth and final day of the workshop, which is actually what we're calling the Summit on Democracy, Public Engagement, Communications in the Media, which is being co-sponsored by the Speaker of the Nitijela, or the Parliament here, along with our Pacific Media Institute, for elected leaders and high-ranking government people to connect on media-related issues in the Marshall Islands. And so this is all coming together. And what's kind of amazing is that originally we were pitching it mostly as a Marshall Islands training event, but people have gotten very excited about it, and various sponsors have joined in and wanted to support it more broadly. So we've been able to, at this time, it looks like we're going to have about 10 government public information officers, media staff from the sub-region, from the Micronesia sub-region, Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, and Kiribati, coming in to join with our Marshall Islands workshop participants. So it's just turning out to be a really interesting thing, and we hope we can make it all happen.
The interest obviously speaks to the need for this kind of training in this kind of space. Why is it important in this day and age that we have training and looking at the topics that you're looking at in this workshop?
Yeah, so when you talk about journalism and people's ability to cover issues, write about things, the people need to have foundation about what journalism is all about, but also really need to be able to hone their skills. And we're bringing in the trainer team that we've got is coming from around the Pacific, and these are folks who are at the top of their media careers, and they're folks with 20 or 30 or more years of media experience. And I think that experience in a workshop setting with younger people is really, really fabulous. And one of the things we found out, the Pacific Media Institute found out last year when we ran a media workshop called Learning to Tell Your Pacific Story, was that we combined a group of working journalists with students, because we're trying to encourage younger people to look at journalism as a future. And so we combined working journalists with students, and we found this marvelous synergy developed between the younger students and the working journalists. So we're doing the same format again this month with a group of working journalists and students, because we're both trying to encourage younger people to get into the field, helping to upscale and improve the working journalist skill set so that they're better prepared for doing their jobs. That's our morning track of the training. The afternoon track is for public information officers from government and NGOs. And what I'll say about public information officers is that they, as a group, get almost no training opportunities ever. And the possibility for professional development is so limited for people in government public information office jobs. Like if we look around the region, like when there are events, usually working journalists get invited to cover a fisheries event or a Pacific Islands Forum event, but very rarely do PIOs, public information officers, get this kind of opportunity. And I think that's why a lot of people are really interested, including our Marshall Islands folks, who we have people from many different government ministries and NGOs who've already signed up and are going to be participating in this workshop.
I want to circle back to your comment about like telling your Pacific story to sort of wrap this conversation up. And with all of the spin, we've heard of Corvus, we know about the geopolitics, the posturing, the positioning on the Western side, on the Chinese side. How do you what does that mean in terms of like from a journalist perspective as sort of your role in cutting through all of this?
We live in the Pacific Islands, and really there are issues that get beaten by outside powers, who are in this apparent battleground, and always, the struggle between the U.S. and China. But truly, that's not a Pacific Island issue. Pacific Island folks are focused on many things and many issues that are just very important in their lives. And I think what's important with island journalism is to reflect the stories that are here. Of course, they're affected by what these big countries do, but looking at it through an island local lens is the way to go, because otherwise you just end up being buffeted around by media releases from the Americans or the Australians or the Chinese or the Taiwanese, and those things aren't necessarily on point to what people in the islands are thinking and doing and talking about.